So today we're going to talk about a stock that I absolutely love, and we're going to go through why this stock is one of my favourites and why it's making such a big move after hours, and if I potentially could buy more, if I could sell more, and what I learned from buying this stock. So hope you enjoy the video. Let's get started. So this stock is Tattooed. No, I'm only joking. We're not mentioning that one on the channel anymore. This stock is Mercado Libre. So the stock is up 5% in pre-market, as you can see here, and this comes after the company just reported some absolute stellar earning results last night. And if you have a look here, the GAAP EPS was $3.25 and it beat by a massive 0.93. So this is a massive beat on that EPS side of it. And you see here revenue came at 3 billion and came in at 40 million. So that's not a massive beat on 3 billion of revenue, but it was 40% year-over-year growth. But as you can see here, the big surprise and why the stock is moving so much in pre-market is a massive EPS beat here. So at the moment, I'm doing personally very well on Mercado Libre after investing into it. And this was one of the stocks that I prioritized in the 2022 stock market crash. This is one of the stocks that I really wanted to buy a lot of. And if you look back on the videos that I made on Mercado Libre, my first one came about 9 months ago, which was saying that I might buy Mercado Libre. And from that point when I made the video, I believe the stock went down a little bit and I thought, okay, this is my actual point to go buy it. And it was one of the stocks that I prioritized in this dip. Now the problem is that it was about halfway through that 2022 stock market crash, so I didn't have a long time to buy this position, and we'll actually talk about that in a little bit, about averaging on positions that are rallying up, which a few people might have at the moment, because if you were buying any stocks in that dip in 2022, the big problem that you have now is that a lot of them have been on a rally. Now my big reason for buying Mercado Libre is to have some exposure into Latin America, and that is through e-commerce and through the fintech platform. Now when I looked at Mercado Libre, the share price had been absolutely demolished since around 2021, as a lot of the growth stocks did. You know, the whole market crashed in 2022, but for a lot of growth stocks, as some of you guys will know if you were holding them through 2021, a lot of growth stocks actually started crashing in 2021. They've been going down for a longer time than the whole market. And you can see here the stock kind of peaked around that 2000 point, and then it fell down around 66%. And I thought this sell-off was massively done or overdone on a fantastic company that is growing revenue massive and also starting to move very much into profitability now it's reached scale. And that was very clear on the financials. If you look at 2020, the company was doing around 2 billion a year in revenue and was unprofitable, and now the company has moved into profitability and the revenue has nearly 5x'd in that time, which is just unbelievable to say. 5x revenue and now making profit, and quite substantial profit as well. 420 million profit is very substantial profit. So I was looking at this company that was kind of getting very close to before CV prices after a 5x in revenue and very substantial profitability. And I was staring at the metrics going, okay, if I look at the metrics of Mercado Libre at the moment, if you look at total enterprise value to revenue, it was around about like before CV, a 12, a 10, a 9, and it was all the way down at a 3. And I was even looking at adjusted EBITDA, which wasn't even fully ramped up at that point, and that was 33, and that was compared to 189 previously. And I was looking at this and going, even though this is only just starting to move to profitability, and that's not factoring the ramp up in profitability they're going to do in the next 2 or 3 years, it's cheap from that point of view. It's cheap from a total enterprise revenue point of view. You look at the share price is nearly the levels it was at in pre-CV, and yet the company has made so much progress. And the really big thing that was impressing me with Mercado Libre is the growth wasn't slowing. The growth was not slowing. You know, they just came off 40% year-over-year revenue growth. Now, as an e-commerce business or even a fintech platform, you look at the likes of PayPal, for example. PayPal just about putting in nearly double percentage revenue growth. You look at the likes of Amazon and the e-commerce company, and they're struggling for growth as well. Some quarters they were basically flat. I think on the recent quarter it wasn't too bad. But a lot of those companies have had so much demand pull forward that they're having a bit of a cool off. Mercado Libre, that wasn't happening to the business. If you actually look at the revenue growth year over year, you know, this company was growing, 25%, 11%, 20%. In 2017, it was around the 40%. Then it dropped down to the 16, 19%. And then prior to CV, it was going up a little bit to where it is right now. And even in the CV, it did go a little bit bonkers, but even right now, this is quite near historic revenue growth for this company, so it's not slowing down. So when you talk about revenue growth, you're willing to pay a bit of a premium if it's a growth company growing really quickly. And Mercado Libre was doing that. It was growing very quickly, But the big thing is profit was ramping up, and the profit was ramping up fast. As you can see here, there was a massive beat. Now, if you actually go back and watch that video that I did about 9 months ago, my big thesis on why Mercado Libre will do really well is because they'll continue with the revenue growth, but also they'll continue now with mass amounts of profit growth. And as you can see here, that is actually playing out in the financials. Now, the reason why I thought they'll have still very good revenue growth and then they'll also have very good profit growth was because of this factor, which was the payment platform. So they introduced a payment platform. This payment platform has been doing very well. And in fact, the payment platform could overtake the actual merchandise part of the business. And you can see here, this was still growing rapid amounts. Now, the big thing is, what's the difference between merchandise and payment? Payment has fantastic gross margins. The profit you can make on payments compared to selling actual items, just look at Amazon. Amazon, quite thin gross margins. Look at the likes of Visa, PayPal. You can make very good profit off that. And my feeling was, okay, the payment platform is going to become the biggest part of the business. And as well as that, it's going to mean that the company's going to be throwing off really big amounts of profit. And what has played out? Revenue growth has been insane, and the profitability has been ramping up quicker because the profit that they can make off the payment platform is a lot higher than the e-commerce business. Now, the e-commerce part of the platform has slowed down a little bit, but because the growth of the payment platform is so high, that's what's really dragging the growth up. And there's also been a few other things inside the business. You can actually see here that they've also been adding in ads, and ads are very good to make profit off. Look at the likes of Facebook, for example, the profit they can make off ads, or Amazon and their potential growth into ads. So you look at something like the ads that they're also adding in, and you can see here that the ads is now 5 times larger than what it was 3 years ago. So this is another bit that they're adding in to add more income streams. And when you've developed basically the Amazon and PayPal of Latin America and all the countries that are going to have the ability for Mercado Libre to take advantage of, there's no wonder this company has a very good future. It's one of the fastest growing areas at the moment in the world for e-commerce and for fintech. So this is really exciting, and I think these results will continue going forward. So I guess that kind of leaves us with where I'm at with the stock. Obviously, I'm currently up a little bit on this position now. Do I want to sell? No, because I still think the payment and the e-commerce part of the business has many years of growth left in it. Do I want to buy? Well, the question is with Mercado Libre, it has been on a little bit of a run up here, as you can see. Compared to where I was buying previously at like $800, $900, it's gone up a fair bit from that amount. But actually, when you look at the valuation, it's not ridiculous. You know, it's still below historically what it's traded at. And I don't think the valuation is that bad when you factor in the growth that it's having and how quickly that profit is going to be ramping up. A lot of people will stare at that and go, 213 times earnings, it's an overvalued company. Well, it's only overvalued because it's only just started making profit. When you factor in how quick that profit is going to be ramping up, we're going to be talking about the profit basically doubling up every year. So to be valuing it off a PE at the moment would be absolutely crazy because that profit is going to ramp up very quickly. So I actually don't think it's actually too badly valued at the moment, which is the scary thing. However, I think that I can afford to play the waiting game on this one, and you never know, if we do have a market that tumbles because of something that we don't expect, maybe inflation spooks investors and this stock drops 10-20%. Maybe there's interest rates that investors don't like from the Fed that causes the market to drop down. Maybe the ideal situation, Mercado Libre brings out an earnings report that's good, but however the stock drops, that would be the perfect situation, and that was what I was actually hoping for it to do at the moment, which it isn't doing. So maybe there's some factors like that happen, and then I can play the waiting game, and if it does come back down to a value that I want to be more of an aggressive buyer, that will happen, because at the moment it is an okay sized position, but I would like it to be a little bit bigger than what it is. And that's the really tricky thing. Averaging up is a really tricky point of how much do you want to average up on a stock. And I think I am willing to average up on Mercado Libre. However, I think that the best time to do it is not after the pop-off earnings, and you never know, we might get some bad news, and if that bad news happens, even though I'll still have to average up, maybe it makes the stock drop 10-20%, which would be the ideal situation. And this is the problem, unfortunately. You know, this is why I say, when we had the 2022 stock market crash, I do not mind the stock market crashing, because I want to have these Mercado Libre at $700, $800 for as long as I can. The longer it stays here, the longer I am able to buy stocks at very ridiculous prices. And this is crazy to think that it was at a 52-week low of $600. I wish it stayed down here longer and I could buy more shares. And this is what people sometimes don't understand, is like, why do you want the stock market to crash? I want the stock market to crash. I want it to stay down here for longer because I can buy more stocks like this at $600. And that's why, as a long-term investor, you want to buy stocks and you want them to go down after you bought them. You want longer and cheaper to buy these stocks at ridiculous valuations. I had this the other day where someone commented on AlphaWave. It's a stock that I've been in for about 3 weeks. And they were saying, oh, when's AlphaWave going to do something? Because in the last 3 weeks, it's basically done nothing since I bought it. Well, as a long-term investor, I'm not bothered where it's going to be in 3 weeks. I want to know where it's going to be in 3-4 years. And if anything, in the short term, if this stock can give me a 20% dip, 30% dip, and I can buy shares at cheaper values, that is absolutely ideal, because something like in Mercado Libre, if that continued to happen, I'd be even in a better situation than where I am right now. And that's why when you're actually buying a stock, you want it to actually probably go down and go to cheaper valuations. And that's the perfect situation. And the big thing is something like Mercado Libre, it's not a stock that I talk about all the time on the channel. There's some times where I talk about a stock, and then because it's a long-term investment, I generally just leave it to do its thing and I won't talk about it for 3-4 months. As an example of that was, or the best example is Microsoft. Microsoft was my biggest position in the stock market in 2017, 2018, 2019, I believe. Through that period of time, I talked about Microsoft a little bit, but I still hold shares now. I've been holding that stock for like 6 years now. And how many times do you hear me talk about Microsoft on the channel? I hardly talk about it. I just let it do its thing. And I had a comment the other day about a company like National Express. I mentioned about buying National Express, and then I've not talked about it for 2 weeks. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes this is the big thing as a long-term investor. You just buy it, you sit back, and you wait for the rewards to come in. And if anything, in the short term, you want more pain, you want more blood on the streets to buy that stock at cheaper prices. And if I could have had Mercado Libre at $600 for 12 months, that would have been absolutely amazing. So that's actually why you would actually want stocks to actually not do that well when you actually buy them. So yeah, just thought I'd talk about this one and my thoughts on it, and why the business is doing so well, and also where I'm kind of at with the business at the moment. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see some exclusive content on the weekend, join the Patreon through the link in the description. I'll be doing a review of earnings from this week. And if you do want some free shares from Trading 212, join through the link in the description. You could get a free share worth up to £100. But thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. See you in a bit.